Hey guys, and welcome back to Cityscape Brewing. Today, I'm feeling, well, lucky.
That's me!
Whoa, what was that? Anyway, we're gonna be brewing up an Irish red ale for St. Patrick's Day. And I'm gonna take you through the whole thing step by step right now. After you guys hit that like and subscribe button, grab yourself a beer, and we're gonna get after it. So this Irish red ale is a pretty simple recipe, but one you can brew any time of the year. It doesn't have to be for St. Patrick's Day. We'll be brewing on the Clawhammer system, who is also a sponsor of this video, so shout out to them. Information on where you can get an all-in-one system is going to be linked in the video description below. That's what we're going to be using, and so far I am loving it. It is essentially a brew-in-a-bag system, so we've double crushed our grains to make sure that we get the most out of our efficiency. And the grain bill is going to be consisting of about 4.5 pounds of Pilsner and 2 pounds of dark Munich. And the reason I'm using those is because I accidentally mixed those together in a different beer and I didn't really intend to do that. And so I'm using those because I messed up. But in addition to those two, we are going to throw in 3.25 pound or 3.25 pounds of Maris Otter and about 1/4 pound of roasted barley to give it some of that color and also some of those kind of roastier flavors that you're expecting in an Irish red ale. For hops, we're keeping it pretty simple. We're just doing 2 1-ounce additions of East Kent Goldings, one at 60 minutes and the other at 5 minutes. So we got about 8.25 gallons ready to go. I got my water additions and Camden tablet already in there, so we're gonna go ahead and get this thing heated up to 150 degrees and start mashing it. All right, now that our water is heated up to almost 150 degrees, I'm gonna go ahead and shut off the pump. And then I'm gonna go ahead and shut this off when it hits 150 until we are fully mashed in, and then we'll get the heat back on this thing. I do like running the pump a little bit while it is heating up to help keep that consistent temperature throughout the water all the way while we're heating things up. It helps also mix up some of those water additions that you put in there. So now we're hitting up exactly 150 right now. We're gonna go ahead and shut off the heat. We'll take off our lid, and then we'll go ahead and start mashing it. At this time, we're also going to add that 4 grams of ascorbic acid. That's going to help us preserve our beer and prevent oxidation long term. That goes right in the mash. So as you can see, we've been mashing in and it stayed at almost 150 degrees perfectly. That's why I go ahead and just leave that shut off until we're good and stirred in. Even if it drops a point, I'd rather be at a little low than way too high. And so we can always heat back up to that perfect amount. But I'm gonna go ahead and start recirculating this thing with the pump and recirculation lid. That's probably one of the better features of Clawhammer is they have a recirculation built right into the lid with a spray valve to keep those sugars pulling off the grains the entire time. And then we're gonna let that go for 60 minutes. We will be stirring it occasionally once in a while, but we're gonna let it do its thing. Next, we'll get our hops ready. Oh man. I looked in my freezer and I thought I was out of East Kent Golding hops. Boy, am I lucky.
You sure are. More than you know.
What the heck was that? Oh my gosh. Okay, we're gonna be weighing out 2 ounces of these things so we can start putting them in our boil when we get to that point. If we get to that point. All right, we got about 5 minutes left in the mash. I'm gonna go ahead and give it one last good stir around. I've got my pulley all set up that Clawhammer sells also to help me hoist this basket out of the kettle, which is a huge help because these things are heavy, especially when you use a lot of grains. But one thing I like to do right at the end here is raise it up to about 170 degrees. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that now, and then we'll give it about 5-10 minutes to finish up and pull this basket out. All right, we got this pump shut off. We have the valves turned. I actually took off the hose. So we're gonna go ahead and pull off our lid, set it off to the side, and get our pulley system here pulled down. And then hoist this up slowly And you don't want to pull it super fast because you are going to let it drain as we go. And it's super important to let this drain pretty good. We want to let it sit here for a little while. After I get it pulled up enough, I'm going to add some of these keys in the back that will help hold up the basket in the kettle so we can unhook our pulley. We're going to give it a little bit to kind of drain through, make sure we get all of those good sugars into our wort. And then we're going to be taking a refractometer reading to see if we hit our gravities, if we're lucky.
We are lucky. Smells delicious.
Whoa, what keeps happening? All right, time to get that refractometer reading now that the basket is out of the way. And we're going to turn this thing up to a boil, but we're going to be using our percentage volumes. We're going to hold the manual button. We're going to turn it to 100 here. And then we're going to go ahead, push set, and then heat on. This puts the element at 100%, and it will get it up to a boil fast. All right, now's a good time to actually look and see where your volume is on your pot. We are a little bit over where I expect to be for the boil volume, so we may need to boil this a little bit longer than I thought. And so if that is the case, you can check your hydrometer refractometer reading, which I'm gonna do right now, and we're gonna see where we are compared to what our expected pre-boil gravity is. If it is low, in fact, because we have more volume in here, then we need to boil a little longer. If it's not, and our efficiency is correct, then we can leave it the same. We'll just have more beer at the end of the day. According to Brewer's Friend, for about 72% efficiency or so, we should have been hitting about 1.039, and we are at right about 1.036. So just a couple of points. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add about 5 minutes onto our boil. That'll help drop that extra couple of ounces out of our beer in order to hit our gravity perfectly at the end of the brew day. As this is heating up, I'm gonna go ahead and add our hop spider, which comes with the claw hammer system. It will help separate some of that vegetal matter so we don't have to worry about that getting into our fermenter. All right, I'm starting to see that boil activity, and before it gets too crazy, I'm gonna go ahead and turn this down to 60%. Since I'm giving this a few extra minutes to boil because of the extra volume we have in the kettle right now, I'm gonna wait about 5 minutes before we add our 60-minute hops, which is 1 ounce of East Kent Goldings EKG hops. All right, and now we wait for another 55 minutes or so till we can add our second round of EKG hops. Now's a good time to probably get another beer. Oh man, I was almost out of yeast nutrient. That was lucky. No.
Sure is lucky. Now where's that beer you were pouring? Ooh.
Oh my God. He's got to stop doing that. All right, Lucky, if you stop doing that, I'll invite you back to taste the final version of the beer. Deal? Lucky?
You, sir, have yourself a deal. I'll be back.
Ooh, good. Guy kind of gives me the creeps. But I don't mind sharing my beer, so until then. All right, let's talk yeast. I did make a 1 liter starter for this one, and I put it in the fridge for the last 48 hours or so it could settle out all that good, delicious yeast on the bottom. What we're gonna do first is go ahead and decant this thing off, leaving just a little tiny bit on the top in order to swirl it around. That way we're not pouring any of that bad beer in our beer, because all we're really wanting is the yeast at the bottom. So we're gonna slowly decant off the old spent beer. Again, leaving just a tiny little bit so we can swirl it and get it off the bottom of the flask here. All right, it's all about what you want. It's just a little tiny bit, just enough to start warming that up and getting it roused up off the bottom. And I'm gonna let this sit out on the counter, warm up a little bit to room temperature. So when we're pitching it, it's closer to the room temp. and warm up. That'll help unstick it off the bottom. But you do want to look on the bottom because it gets pretty stuck. So swirl that around, get that really unstuck, and let it warm up to pitching temperatures. All right, we're about 15 minutes till the end of our boil. I'm gonna be adding some yeast nutrient and a Whirlflock tablet to help with some clarity, which is the Whirlflock tablet there, and yeast nutrient to help out our yeast. All right, we're getting everything ready to cool down. So I'm gonna show you real quickly how I have this set up to actually cool. The claw hammer gives you one connection that goes on the top of this pump. I've actually added a second, so I added a T and another shutoff valve and another quick connect, so I can just disconnect the one that normally would go to the lid for recirculation. I have that one shut off and unhooked, of course. Now I have another hose with a different valve here that will go right into my plate chiller that I can hook up right away. So I have a smaller hose that goes into that. I have a hose for the wort out that will go back up to the kettle to recirculate, or you could have it go right into a fermentation vessel, but I like to cool it down a little bit ahead of time. I also have a hose in for the water that's going to be cooling this down going through the plate chiller, and then a hose out for the warm water to go out into my driveway. So in this particular case, I'm going to be using the plate chiller. Claw Hammer also sells, though, a counterflow chiller like this one, which is great if you're using a lot of hops. So like the Krush Hazy IPA I did a few weeks ago, this is one I used for that. With the hop spider that we're using in the kettle today, we shouldn't have to worry about getting this thing clogged at all. This thing should work just fine. So we're gonna go ahead and just turn on this valve that's gonna go to our plate chiller. And then when we're ready, we will open this valve and turn on our pump and our water and start recirculating back into the kettle to start cooling this thing down. All right, 5 minutes left. You know what that means? It's our last round of EKG hops going in. All right, it's that time. We're at the 60-minute mark. We're gonna go ahead and start cooling this thing down. So it's easy. We're just gonna go ahead and shut the heat off. We're gonna turn the pump on after we open up our valve at the front of our kettle, and we already have that set up. We have this other hose from our chiller that we're gonna be putting on the top of the kettle here. That's a good clamp that Claw Hammer already gives you as part of the system. And then we're gonna go ahead and turn on that pump. And that's gonna recirculate back into this kettle. You can alternatively go right into a fermenter if it's cold enough, but I like to get this thing cooled down just a little bit and then getting into our fermenter. I think it helps getting closer to our pitching temps, which in this case, this yeast likes it between 62 and 72 degrees. So we're gonna be shooting for about 67 or so Fahrenheit in our fermentation chamber. All right, and here we are. We got our final beer. Before we start pitching our yeast, I'm gonna go ahead and throw in my tilt hydrometer, which I always do. We'll see where that is gravity-wise also by getting a little sample for our refractometer. Expected original gravity was supposed to be 1.048, and so we are sitting at about 1.046. Not too bad, a couple points off. Don't worry about that at all. I only am worried when I'm like 5 or more, maybe even 10 or more points off. At the end of the day though, it all makes beer. And just like that, brew day is complete. So we'll be back to taste this Irish Red after it gets done fermenting, and I guess we'll even invite Lucky.
Yes, sirree. We'll be back, laddies.
All right, guys. Well, it's been a couple of weeks. We have our beer fully completed. We're gonna go ahead and pour a glass for me and maybe that other guy, and we're gonna taste it. But first, I wanted to also let you know that just this week I found out that the latest 2 videos that I had made, one for My Secret Krush Hazy IPA and the other for the One Hefe Banana Hefeweizen, both received gold medals in Raleigh's Shamrock Open Homebrew Club competition. So I just found that out this week. I'm stoked, and if you haven't watched those videos, I will have them linked in the video description below. Go check out those 2 beers. They're fantastic, and brew them yourself. And look at that beer. That is a fantastic look and color for an Irish red. If this were being judged, let's talk a little bit about what BJCP judges would actually be looking for. And in this one, they're going to be looking for that medium amber to medium reddish copper color. It should be clear with low off-white to tan colored head. It should be an easy drinking pint with slightly grainy biscuity flavors or even toffee caramel sweetness with a dry roasted finish. I think the color is pretty much spot on. It's like got a little bit of chill haze, but I think that'll clear up over the next couple of days since this is fairly new in the keg. So as promised, I am gonna invite the other guy, you know who, back to taste this with me. So let me go pour him one and then we'll see what it's all about. All right, well, I got us both a beer, so don't make me regret this time. Lucky. Oh.
I'm back.
Well, at least you didn't take over my body this time.
Welcome. Ooh, what do we have here?
Well, as promised, I got us each a beer. An Irish red ale. Cheers.
Ooh, tastes like me home country.
Well, that's good. Let's go in for the taste myself. This is really, really a good beer.
I'll be having seconds for sure.
It has those kind of sweet, malty notes. You get some of that toffee flavor in the back notes. You also get a little bit of that biscuity flavor. It ends with a not overly sweet, but a slightly dry finish, which is kind of what you're going for this style. So it's actually really, really good. Yeah, I'm probably going to crush several of these things over the next couple of weeks for sure, especially on St. Patrick's Day.
Well, you know, there is one thing I like more than delicious beers. Gold
Wait, what's
medals!
Lucky, no! Well, I guess there goes those. Oh well, at least I got this delicious red ale. Thanks for stopping by. Make sure you leave any questions or comments underneath in the comment section. As always, this entire recipe is going to be in the video description. So make sure you crush that like and subscribe button, grab yourself a beer, and until next time, cheers. Happy homebrewing. Get back here. Hey, thanks for watching my video. You're awesome. You want to be even more awesome? Hit that join button and become a member. You'll get exclusive members-only recipes and other perks like Brew Day sheets, and watch my videos early as they drop before anyone else. So hit that join button below, become a member, and be awesome.